These strawberries are taking over this entire bed. They have been producing so much for us and we love them. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how we are going to transplant these already established plants into a better place. This is our strawberry tower that we have been enjoying so much this year. And I've mentioned this before several times that we have loved this variety, which is an ever-bearing strawberry. And we have been harvesting so much. And this is the type of strawberry that we want to propagate and make sure we have more of this in the other green stock. For months, we have been talking about starting over with this green stock because look at this mess. We had other things planted here and most of them struggled, so we got rid of them. And some of the things like the lettuce and stuff, we harvested and some of those went well. And now it's time. But we neglected to do this and now we have weeds everywhere. But today is the day and I'm so excited because we have great plans for this green stock. So I have another bed that has the same variety of strawberries that we are going to transplant and put them into our new strawberry tower. So the first thing we're going to do is empty out all these pots because we are going to use a specific soil for the strawberries. So we're going to throw this soil actually into our compost bin. But not these plants because we actually want to give those to the chickens. Now, I know a lot of people can grow wonderful things in their green stock and all kinds of vegetables. I've seen amazing things that people can do with their green stock, but that just hasn't worked out for me. But what has worked out has been the strawberries. And that's why I'm excited about this project because we are going to turn this into another beautiful strawberry tower.
I'm just going to dump this over by our compost.
The potting soil we use is Strawberry Fields. We use 4 bags to fill up this 5-tier green stock. I will leave a link in the description box for you. The soil from the bags is quite dry, and I don't like to plant when the soil is dry. So what we're doing is pre-moisten the soil so that everything will be nice and moist. Sometimes the soil becomes hydrophobic and it doesn't absorb water well. So even though it has a pool of water on top and it looks like it's very well watered, it actually isn't. Here's a tip for you. We are filling it halfway, filling the container halfway, and then we are watering and mixing the soil so everything is nicely moist. And then we're going to be filling up the pot with more soil and doing the same thing. Believe me when I tell you that if you fill the pot to the top, it is going to be very hard to mix without making a big mess. So right now, for example, the soil looks moist and it even pooled a little bit over here, kind of like making you think that it has enough water. But even if I just move it a little bit, you can see it is bone dry in there. This is why when I'm planting in pots, I always like to pre-moisten my soil. Yes, it creates a little bit more work and a little bit more of a mess, but it is always totally worth it. Because the soil in these pots is already moistened, it is extremely heavy. So I am so grateful for Glenn and his help with this project. We are now ready to dig up these strawberries and transplant them to our green stock. But as I'm over here, I am noticing that we have a few strawberries that are ripe and I need to harvest them before we dig them up. I won't be able to harvest all of them because some of them are not quite ripe, but I am hoping that the strawberries that are growing here are not going to suffer too much from the shock. Many of these runners have rooted and have sent out more runners, and those have taken root, and then sent out even more runners. So there is just a lot of plants in this garden bed, and it is time for them to go. Now over here, this looks like a big, gigantic plant. And that's another thing about strawberries. Not only do they propagate through runners, but also through root division. So this was just one plant, but as I'm looking at it, this is probably going to be 3 or 4 plants in this little mound right here. So I'm going to start digging it up. And then after I dig it up, I'm going to see how to divide the plant. Okay, now over here, I just realized that this plant has a runner attached to it, and this plant over here is already in the ground and it's pretty solid. So what I'm going to do is cut that so that now I can focus on digging up this this group of plants right here. One of the reasons why we want to remove the strawberries from here, aside from the fact that this is supposed to be a blueberry bed and we don't want it to choke out our blueberries, it's also because we are having a lot of vole activity here in this bed. And they continue to disturb our strawberries over here. So, okay, so I'm just kind of digging around it. I need to remember that strawberries are pretty resilient, even though it sounds like I am hurting them over here. They are fine. Okay, so I'm digging up the soil around them, and as I pull it up. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of work the soil very gently to remove some of the soil over here and expose the roots, just very gently. And once I do that, it's going to make it easier for me to divide the plants over here. I want you to see how here's one plant, there's another one here, and here. So I have at least 4 plants here. So as I am gently just brushing at the roots, I am going to start teasing these out and see if, oh, an earthworm, and see if I can separate them. And they are going to break a little bit, and that's okay. There we go. So I want to keep as much of the roots as I can over here in this other one. Oh, and these leaves are tangled, and that's what makes it difficult too. There we go. Slowly, gently teasing these roots apart from one another. There we go. And I have a plant, right here with a really good root system. And I'm going to keep working on these so that I can have, so that I can divide these again. There we go. Okay, this one has pretty good root system, and this one is probably the original one. And you guys can see that's where the other crowns are coming from. Okay, so I'm going to take these over there to the greenstalk and start planting them, because I don't want them to sit right here like this. It is the middle of the day and they are really going to suffer if I leave them like that. So here we have 3 plants that we got from just one plant, and actually 4, and I'm going to transplant them here. I am going to start from the top and work my way down to the bottom, and you guys can see the root system right here. And I'm going to do it the same way that I did with my bare root strawberries. I just kind of put my hand in there, and I'm going to grab a little bit of this berry tone fertilizer. Now I'm going to make sure that all the roots get in there. So I dug a little deep because these roots are really long and I want to make sure they can go deep. And I am only going to plant it to about this area right here. I don't want to plant it so deep. And this is something that I learned the hard way last year, because in the spring, when I planted my bare root strawberries, some of them I planted too deep. And when you're planting bare root strawberries, well, at least in my opinion, it was a little bit harder to see where the crown was. But now, based on because I pulled the plant from the ground, now I know where the soil level was for that plant. And I'm just gonna push the soil in a little bit, and there it is. Now this one here has some strawberries that we're not quite ready to harvest, and that's okay. And look at this beautiful root system. So what I'm going to do is just make a trench with my hand, and I'm going to make it quite deep because these roots are long. Once I make my trench, I'm going to put a little bit of berry tone here at the bottom. And then I'm going to make sure that the roots are tucked in there very well all the way to the bottom. Then I'm going to start filling in that trench as much as I can, but also making sure that I am not planting this too deep. So just at the soil level that it was when I transplanted it. Okay, this looks great. Just gonna push it down a little bit, and just like that, it's good to go. Now this one here that I pulled up has a runner with 3 other plants already growing, and this runner is already pretty developed and it's developing a root system. So I might try to rescue this and just plant it as it is, and then maybe use these to propagate them that way. I am a little concerned because the root system for this plant is not as strong as the other ones. So we'll see how it does. So again, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Make a little trench, a deep one because it has a pretty long root. I put some berry tone in there. This berry tone is amazing, by the way. We also used berry tone when we transplanted our our other berry plants, like our blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and it has worked really well for us. Okay, I think because of the weight of the plants that are hanging up from this runner, it's having a little bit of a hard time like staying put right here. So I'm gonna grab a garden staple to secure it. So with my garden staple, I'm just going to just push down a little bit so that it can stay put right there. Good. Now it's not going anywhere. That's the same thing that I do when I am propagating strawberries this way. Like this one, for example, you can see that the roots are starting to develop and it's looking really good. So what I would do is do the same thing with a garden staple. I would just put it right here. And because it doesn't have anything to hold on to yet, because the roots are not long, I would put a garden staple right here, and then the plant will make good contact with the soil and continue to grow that way. All right, but we have a ton more strawberry plants that we need to go dig up and bring them over here. This is looking so good so far. I still have the bottom tier that I need to finish transplanting, And this is unbelievable because this will be 35 plants. And I actually thought I would be able to leave some empty pockets so that as the plants are sending out runners, we could continue to propagate that way. But that's not the case. We just have so many plants that I'm actually going to cut off these runners. That way the plant can just focus on establishing itself and strengthening its root system. And we left more plants, especially the younger plants, the strawberry plants, in that blueberry bed. And we are going to wait and see, maybe next year in the spring, they'll be ready for us to transplant them again if we need to. So the last two plants that I'm planting down here have very small root system. So at this point, I'm not even sure if these are going to survive. I'm going to put a tag on these two just so that I know that if they die, I will know it's because it's the ones that didn't have a very good root system. So I am adding some of this berrytone over here. Again, we have been loving using this for our berries. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description box for you. Okay, so this is my last one for this green stock. It's been a big project, but I am so excited for this. We ended up moving this to a shaded area so that these have the opportunity to spring back a little bit. They are looking a little bit droopy, which is totally normal because of the transplant. But I am so excited for this. I am so glad we got to do this project. It was way overdue. This was a much needed project that needed to be done months ago, but it's okay. It worked out today, and I'm just so glad we got to do it, even if it was a few months later than expected. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new. And if you did, please make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. And I will see you next time.